Amazing.
Way
Do
to
what I
go,
can.
Maggie.
Do what I can.
Are you like too ambitious at times, do you think?
For sure. Sometimes we think of ambitious people as not grateful for the
Yes.
present. That is that couldn't be further from the truth for me. I literally get up and thank God for my life, both professionally and personally, my home, my family. Like, those are things that I'm so grateful for. But I just feel like I have a lot of potential, and I've worked so hard to be where I am, and I've never taken a shortcut. That for me, I'm like, okay, where's the road going now? Like.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fitz Nation. My guest on this episode is the lovely and talented UFC reporter Megan Olivi. Now, we just got back from UFC Mexico in Mexico City, and this conversation happened on Friday after weigh-ins. On Saturday, I got a bad case of food poisoning on the day of the show. Now, I don't say this to shine a light on me, but I say it to shine a light on Megan and the rest of our UFC team who were there for me in such a big way. They were so attentive and caring and helped in any way that they could, but particularly Megan. She texted me and said, let me know anything that you need. And she went out of her way to get me. She made multiple stops to look for coconut water and other hydrating beverages to make sure I had every chance to get to the show. And then on the broadcast itself, we set it up so that Megan had more of a role than she usually does. She led the way on a lot of fighter walks so that those several minutes of breaks in between fights, I could kind of sit back and conserve my energy so that later in the night for those big two fights at the end, I could really give a good performance for what the show deserved. But really just, love having Megan as a friend on the road. And obviously she's a wonderful coworker. And the rest of our UFC crew as well. There's a lot of names that I could shout out right now. It was really heartwarming for me because I was in a bad way early on Saturday. And the fact that it was a late show in the day certainly helped. I could rest as much as I could all day. But anyways, I just want to shine a light and give all of the thanks to our UFC crew that helped me. And like I said, in particular, the MVP, in my opinion, was Megan. That just gives you a little bit of a taste of who Megan is as a person. Hope you'll glean more from this interview as we sat down on Friday when we were having a grand old time in Mexico City. She talks about her role in detail as a UFC reporter and what it entails. She even gives a 2-minute interview of me to kind of show you how it's done. We talk about short interviews that she has to do often that wants to have impact. And then she talks about her faith as a practicing Catholic and things that she's working on right now in her life, including trying to guard against being overly ambitious. She's a great friend. She's great at her job. The lovely and talented Megan Olivi. Happy to have her on Fitz Nation.
Okay.
Am I tall enough?
Wow, I feel like this is a cool vibe.
Do you like this?
I really do.
I really like this setup. I'm in Mexico City with Megan Olivi.
Hello.
How you doing?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited we're finally doing this.
Isn't this cool?
Yeah, I love the vibe. Brendan found a perfect location. It's really beautiful.
Very gardeny. It's very nice. Our hotel is right there.
Yes.
Do you like the travel part of the job? Some people don't like it.
I would say most of the time I like it, but there are sometimes I don't. It's hard. People don't realize, like, our schedules are crazy. We get tired. There's jet lag. There's a lot of things involved. And I'm not the best sleeper. So I think that's what makes traveling hard for me. But, like, if we're there long enough to adjust, or especially if Joe's with me or whatever it might be, I like traveling. But once in a while, I'm like, how am I going to do this?
I always have the best of intentions of, like, this weekend, I'm going to take care of myself.
Oh, yeah.
And then I get there, and the local food is delicious and fun times. And you just end up talking to people, and which is an important part of the job to me that kind of gets lost when we stay at home in Vegas. Like last night, I stayed up until midnight because I saw Eric Nixick and his wife, and I'm out with Felder, and I don't have dinner with him very much anymore.
Right.
It just stretches on later. So Megan did a little bit of the sightseeing in Mexico, and you were just telling me a story about, what is it? Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Yes, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Yes, so I went to the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. I've been to Mexico City. I've been really fortunate to be here several times. I love it here. And I've done some sightseeing things, but I knew I had Thursday afternoon, so I decided to take it. And so there was a miracle that happened here in Mexico. And basically there was a man who was walking through the mountains, and Mary appeared to him, and the priest he told didn't believe him, and he said, we need proof. So Mary appeared to him again and basically said, go pick these roses from the top of the mountain. And he said, well, it's the winter, there's no roses. She said, just go up there. He did, and he put them in his tilma, which is like a big piece of cloth that he had with him. And then he waited for the priest to see him, and he released it, and there was an image of Mary on it. And that image, that exact tilma, the same piece of fabric that he showed to a priest, is available to view, and
oh wow,
at the basilica. And so it's amazing. Like, on her cloak is a bunch of stars, but those stars are the exact constellations, the way the night sky was here in Mexico City the night she appeared to him, which I believe was December 12th. So it was really moving. I am a practicing Catholic, and so for me it was really important, and like a life-changing experience.
Life-changing yesterday.
Yeah, I cried like the whole time.
No way.
I just felt like, you go in the old basilica and it's sinking. It's like literally sinking. I guess all of Mexico City's sinking, but you go in there and you're kind of like disoriented for a second, and there's just so much going on, and I have a lot to pray for right now in my life, so I just felt really moved. The Chapel of the Roses, which is on the top of the hill, where he had to pick the roses for Mary, like they have a beautiful chapel there, so I just spent a lot of time there. I got blessed by the priest. I bought all these rosaries for my family. They all got blessed. So yeah, Catholic Meg was real happy.
Scale of 1 to 10, religious. How religious are you?
I mean, I'm not. I practice my faith. I go to mass. I believe in the sacraments, but I'm not out here ever telling anyone how to live their life.
Right.
I have friends that have all different lifestyles, all different choices to be religious or not. Even my own husband was kind of agnostic when I met him, and I was like, okay, as long as you don't tell me like that I can't believe in what I believe, I don't care. And I mean, now he's Catholic, yes, but I never forced it, and I try not to do that in my life. I share things on my story, but just because I like them, I don't ever want to be like an evangelist out there, because I've also experienced that within my own religion and others that are like not connotations that I would want to have with either myself or my faith, or why I have my faith.
In terms of faith, like I had Catholic Light when I was a kid,
Okay.
right? Episcopal church, and then like got First Communion, and then like hockey was on Sundays, so we couldn't go anymore, type of thing.
Oh no, the Olivis went to mass on Saturday night, sir.
I've read recently that a lot of people find their faith like in their 40s and 50s, and it's like this almost jarring thing, because they're like, gosh, I used to be an atheist, or I was agnostic, or I was like looking down on religion. And I felt that way a little bit recently. Like, I don't know if I'm going to start praying anytime soon, but like I see more of the benefits of it. And then I view it more as a scale instead of a light switch.
Sure.
It's like you either believe everything or you believe nothing, and that's not what it is.
Right, exactly.
And you can take it for what it can benefit you and other people around you for.
Exactly. I think Joe, when he used to say, like, well, I guess what's the harm of me praying? Like, what bad is going to happen if I pray for something or say thank you for something? Like, what harm will come of me? Well, really nothing. It's like 30 seconds of your day, so.
How certain are you that there is this invisible energy that's connected to that?
I mean, for me, 100% certain. But again, I like wouldn't ever force that on anyone either.
I think some people that are like scientists that are like, no, it works. Like
Right.
Andrew Huberman said recently on Cam's podcast. He was like, it works. And I'm like, whoa, if Huberman's saying it,
Right.
like Mr. Research Lab,
Right.
then it must be something. The easy answer when I say, what do you do?
This guy loves sweeping, by the way.
Oh my God. I think the AI sound thing will probably negate it
Let's
a
hope.
bit. The easy answer when somebody asks you, what do you do, is I'm a reporter for the UFC.
Yes.
When somebody goes next level and says, what does that entail? How do you answer it?
Oh, man. Well, it entails interviewing our athletes before and after they compete. It entails reporting on stories from their backgrounds or their lives. And then it entails some additional work in terms of hosting desks or shows to give our audience a better idea of who our athletes are as both competitors and individuals.
That's a very nice, succinct answer.
Hey, thanks.
Do people really get into the weeds with you? Like, how much do people want to know all the details about what you do?
Yeah, people ask a lot, especially if people are sports fans. I get an interesting. So yes, people want to know what I do, and I've found from social media, people really want to know how we do stuff.
Yes.
Or what our days look like, which I'm trying to get better at showing.
Well, that's why I'm here to talk to you, and then
Yeah.
we can put it out there.
Amazing. I love it. So yeah, people ask that a lot. But I also, you know what, I interestingly enough get a lot of questions from other sports talent who will ask, like, how do you guys do X, or why do you do Y, or how did you let them how did you let them have you do these specific things within a broadcast?
Right.
So that's really cool for me too, because I understand that we're really breaking barriers, and we are doing things that other sports broadcasts aren't doing, especially with my role. And so to be able to kind of share that knowledge with other women in the field, because it's been particularly women who reach out to me, that's really neat to see if they can start implementing what we're doing. We're kind of the first ones.
In what ways?
Like the reports for walkouts.
Right.
That's pretty big. I get asked that a lot. During COVID.
What would be, he was getting close with that.
Wow,
point.
yeah.
What would be, to me, the reports during walkouts would be the equivalent of a sideline report at a football game.
Yeah, but I mean, I do that as well, and
Right.
and it's a little bit different. Like, they're stylistic for our UFC broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, we want to make sure they look good. Most of my reports for football are off camera.
Sure.
And they are what I'm exactly seeing at that
Yeah,
moment.
like it's a news thing.
Yes.
It's like, this guy's
Yes.
injured, I see this.
Whereas we build my
story.
parts into the show as well. Those are in the format. You know, obviously formats change and things
Right.
happen, but, you know, it's nice to be able to do that. So sometimes, you know, I was talking to a woman who does MLB, and she's like, well, maybe we can come back from commercial. I can kind of do something on whoever's at the top of the order. A little 30-second background hit on camera where they then pan to them in the batter's box. And so those are things that it's nice for me to be able to help, but also feels good to know that we're the ones doing it.
Yeah,
you know?
we do great at theater in that regard. Like,
Yeah.
it'll go to you, and you're standing in a certain place, and the camera kind of moves over. Like, if they did that in the baseball example, they don't have, like, this jib swinging
Right,
over the
right.
field to go from reporter to the batter's box
Right.
and whatever. And that's a very unique aspect of what we do, which is cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is the next element that you'd like to see, or that you could see happening?
I mean, I would like to do walkout hits more often. I think we could build them in a lot more of the show. That's just my opinion, and I would like to see that happen. Because as you know, I mean, our fighter meetings yesterday, how many tremendous stories were we told, and really about overcoming and how they all got here. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't have the ability to get that in. The fight action is crazy, you know, and the stories just end up maybe not being told in full or being told in as much detail as we got them. So I would like to be able to do that and just continue to kind of develop what these hits look like.
Right.
Add more to the show. I love hosting the desk too, so whenever I get to do that, you know, especially for prelims on a pay-per-view, is fun. And then I love doing features. So when we can build in features like, hey, I sat down with Alexander Volkanovski,
Yes.
to be able to give a toss to the piece for, you know, 3 minutes or whatever it might be in each show, that for me would be huge. I think we see Erin Andrews do that a lot for NFL. She is kind of the one who does each feature report each week, and she talks about them on the pre-show. That's, for me, probably my favorite part of my job, so hopefully I can continue
The
to do more of
sit-down
those.
interviews.
Yeah, and build
Yeah.
them into the show.
Yeah, I like those. Most of your interviews, I shouldn't say most, but plenty of the interviews you do are short. 2 minutes?
Yes.
How do you do short interviews that have impact?
Oh, man, it's a good question. It's so hard. If somebody was like, you have to fill 5 minutes with this fighter, it would be far easier than 2 minutes. For me, it's about how can I keep them comfortable, because that's how we get the most out of their answers. So if they feel comfortable in the setting with the camera or whatever, because some people aren't. So if I can keep them comfortable and keep my questions as short but to the point as possible, detailed, so they know exactly what I'm asking. But it's my job to just give them the platform. So if I can just kind of tee it up for them, they can hit the home run, but I need to do that as quickly and as comfortably for them as possible.
Was that ever something that you learned along the way? For me, I was like, I never was a look at me guy, but I unlocked a new level to broadcasting when I realized when I sit in a studio, because this is when I figured it out, and I sit in a studio and there's 2 analysts over there, it's not about what I can tell anybody. It's about what I can get out of them.
Exactly.
And like that's why I've thrived at this job, because it's not as much about what I can do, but if I can get the best out of Bisping, Felder, DC, Dom, whoever's in that chair, it really goes to the next level.
That's exactly it. So when I am doing an interview, like I will try, especially sometimes post-fight, there's so much adrenaline and emotion that I'm just trying to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll come over and they'll look like super pissed or they'll be crying, whatever it is. I'll try to acknowledge that because that's where they're at. I need to meet them where they're at and then bring out, hey, tell me about the fight. But yes, you're exactly right. It is never about us. I mean, most of the time we're not even on camera.
Yeah,
That's
but
fine.
did you figure that out at some point during your career? Because I remember thinking, I'm getting into this broadcasting field. The camera's going to be on me. I'm going to be talking. Surely some of it's about me.
Oh.
And of course it is a little bit, but I've never shied away from the camera, and I can MC events, and I
Sure.
lean into that. But then it's like you can, again, like unlock the next level when you just go, oh, I'll get better if I shine elsewhere.
Well, I don't think I necessarily felt that same way.
That's not like why you got
because,
into it.
right, I got into it so late and truly for the love of sport. I just wanted to be able to talk about the Yankees and the Giants and get paid for it in some capacity and not be like the weird one at work.
That's the magic. That's how you have to start.
That was really it. But the reason I think I maybe didn't feel like that was because most of the way I started my job was off camera and a lot of scrums, a lot of sort of red carpet-ish style where you're leaning over and just putting the mic out for answers. So I wasn't even on camera for a lot of things. So I think that's where things were different. Now, when I'm on camera, I feel like I do owe it to myself and everyone else who hired me to do the best job that I can with being on camera. But I will say that I learned how to be more brief with my questions when we went to Fox.
Oh, when you went to Fox, you learned that.
Yes. And they, between Zach and the Fox producers were kind of like, listen, you do a good job, but like get there quicker. And so that's where I started really working on all of that.
Whenever people ask questions, particularly in your role, you can really tell. That's like a next level for anybody watching. If somebody's good at asking questions, the question will be asked within 10 seconds of them starting to talk. Sometimes 4. Right? Like it's like a quarterback. A good quarterback gets rid of the ball in 2 seconds.
Yes.
Get there.
Yeah.
Don't get there in 32 seconds because that happens too.
Right.
And
it's the difference between, for our UFC interviews, it's the difference between 2 or 3 questions or 4 or 5 questions.
Right.
And did you cover everything both fans want to know and the athlete want to talk about?
How do you balance, though? Because I feel like the UFC, we're more mainstream certainly than we've ever been, but we're on the niche edge.
Sure.
You want to kind of frame it so that the viewer can understand that might not be an expert and deep into the knowledge, and that takes time.
Yes, especially for pre-fight.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might seem like we are asking questions that, we've kind of covered this topic before. But those pre-fight interviews are not just done for the internet or YouTube or to live on .com. Those are done for Phil. Should our fights end early, we can air those interviews. Now, they air in the prelims portion of our cards, and that's where we will have, yes, our diehard fans, but also some casual fans watching. So we have to make sure that that audience is spoken to as well and that they can fully understand. Now, you guys do an amazing job of like tossing to those things. You and the talent, whoever's at the Octagon, break down the fights beautifully, but it's also about making sure I get both the more casual question and the very niche questions all answered within those interviews so that every type of fan is covered.
Yeah. If you were... I know you do like your homework, right? And it's extensive homework so that you can be prepared for a lot of things. But sometimes you have to spur of the moment, come up with something.
Yeah.
Back to the short interviews with impact. If you were going to interview me like now,
Okay.
could you do it?
I think so.
Well, I would hope so. But like, how would you approach that?
Well, first I
Like,
would...
let's go.
Okay, Brendan,
Like 2 minutes.
we're here in Mexico City. And we're so glad that you're calling the fights. You had a interesting time last time you were here. What type of memories does it evoke to be back?
Man, you went right there, didn't you? Yeah, it was great. I think what's misunderstood is that I didn't hide under the desk. I simply gave myself a roof so that I could stay calm on the broadcast.
As you should.
I felt like I was in a water balloon fight, which is a lot of fun. But when you have a hot mic on, you don't want to go, shit. So I wanted to guard against that. So I feel like I was thinking, I think I was playing chess when Bisping was playing checkers.
Okay.
Is really what it was. And I think I was able to execute, stay calm. And then, the video went out and went viral. And I've always had fun with it. And Bisping said, I don't hide under desks on Twitter like an hour ago.
Yes, I did see that.
And I said, only one of us is brave enough to come back to Mexico City. So that's where we're at.
How are you feeling about this card and your return here?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. My sister lives down here. I do like Mexico City a lot.
Beautiful.
It's very beautiful. It's easy to see why during the pandemic a lot of people moved down here from the States, because it has the infrastructure of a major city, and the food's good, the culture is great, the weather is perfect, and I don't get many road shows anymore, so I really like to enjoy each one for what they offer. And the card is amazing. Like, this is a landmark weekend for the UFC in Mexico, so I feel very grateful to be a part of it.
WEC style card. Do you like all these fights being 155 and under?
Well, at 7,400 feet, I think we're in big trouble if you put some heavyweights out there and you get into round 2. So I think we're setting a record this weekend for flyweight fights on the card if they all go. And
they got to make weight.
I think we got action in spades this weekend.
I love that. Before I let you go, what's the best thing you've ate so far in Mexico City?
Man, I feel like I got labeled a vegan for good reason, because
you were.
I was for a little while, and I held pretty strict to that for a course of a couple of years. And now I'd say I'm still above 90% in that category, but I'm a when in Rome guy. Last year in Kansas City, I had a barbecue sandwich. Here in Mexico, I've had some pastor tacos. I've actually eaten pretty much exclusively tacos, so I can't really tell you anything other than the tacos have been fantastic.
That's the only thing we need to eat here.
Exactly right.
Thanks for the interview, Fitz.
That was 2 minutes and like 4 seconds.
Okay, amazing.
Way
Do
to
what I
go,
can.
Maggie.
Do what I can.
Fantastic. That's good though. And I felt like I was getting a little long-winded, but a 2-minute allows for long-winded if you get to the questions real quick.
Exactly.
And you do your thinking while I'm in the question.
It's about also listening, because I think so many times people have so much prepared, which is great, myself included.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not the road the athlete takes you down.
Right.
So if you're just listening and you have a good idea because you paid attention and you know what your job is, then if you're just listening to what they're saying, you follow that path. That's way more interesting than anything I've prepped.
Yeah, when an interview coach at ESPN, he says, go in with your overall strategy and then follow your blocking. Like, follow your blocking.
I love that.
And he was fantastic. That's what kind of changed my career, is like learning the different elements of interviews and getting the best out of other people. What has changed for you recently? You take this anywhere you want. Mindset or job-wise or anything that you care to get into.
Well,
or are you trying to keep things the same?
I love a routine.
Yeah.
I love when things are the same, but I love that for my personal life.
Yeah.
Professionally, I die inside. Because you would think that I would be okay just like doing my job.
Yeah.
But I'm really not. I feel like if I'm not doing extras, that I'm going down. When that's not the case, and a sane person knows that, but I'm not sane professionally. Personally, I love a routine. I love to keep things the same. I love to make dinner. Joe and I watch our shows. We go to bed. That's, for me, I love it. We don't get much routine at home because we travel so much and because, of our work schedules. But professionally, I'm always striving to continue to evolve in whatever capacity that is, whether that's, Super Bowl week is in town, what can I do for that? Or we have 300 coming up, how can I be best involved? Or we have a big summer of fights, are we doing more sit-downs? I'm constantly trying to involve myself where I can. But where things have changed, I don't know. I feel like every day is changing.
Right.
I'm just trying to keep up and not drown.
Are you like too ambitious at times, do you think?
For sure.
What's the effect on that?
I'm so grateful, because sometimes we think of ambitious people as not grateful for the present. That couldn't be further from the truth for me. I am so grateful every single day. Like, I literally get up and thank God for my life, both professionally and personally, my home, my family. Like, those are things that I'm so grateful for. But I just feel like I have a lot of potential, and I've worked so hard to be where I am, and I've never taken a shortcut. That for me, I'm like, okay, where's the road going now? And that doesn't ever mean leave things behind either. It means continue to build on the things that I have now. And so it can be difficult. And even our producers are like, you're doing a great job. Like, chill out.
Yeah. I've had that disease before too. Disease is not the right word, but it's like finding the balance to that is it's like a New Year's focus for me. It's like, do your job well.
Yeah.
You don't have to post to Instagram every day.
God, it's killing us.
You don't have to do 1,000 podcasts.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a YouTube video every time you're at the UFC Apex to just do your job well. It's tough to pull back, though, when you're used to...
Yeah.
Is there a particular thing you're chasing where, like, have you thought of that? You can acknowledge, like, your weaknesses in the ambition department.
Sure.
Have you stepped back and think, is there, like, a list item where you go, once I get there, then I'll be on the other side of the mountain, and then I can...
I don't think we'll ever feel like we're on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's being a woman. I don't know if it's our nature as broadcasters. I don't know really what it is, but I just don't think I'll ever come to that side.
Right.
But I'm chasing lots of things that I hope to do hand in hand with what I do with the UFC. Things like being on the sidelines for Super Bowl, hosting a morning show. Those things are very important to me and my future, and hopefully those are things that I get to do.
You still hold on to those.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, like, I just recently have been like, maybe there are a few things in my career that I've always thought would be there at some point, and I think I'm learning to just give them away. And not to say I'm not going to chase them or hope that they happen, just to be like, you know what? I'm 41. This might never happen. Just be okay with it.
Right.
If it does, great. If not, whatever.
For sure. I think that's a little bit how I look at it. Like,
we all want to do soup. Like, you get into the business.
Right.
To do, like, to your point earlier of, like, I just wanted to talk about the Yankees and Giants and get paid.
Mm-hmm.
To me, when I was, like, 7, I was just like, I want to go to the Super Bowl and get paid someday. And I did when I went to one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
With, like, my local station. I was just like, I took a picture and I said, holy smokes, did it.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right, now we go on to the next thing. But I also have always thought, like, what's the coolest job in, like, being the Bob Costas and now Mike Tirico at the Olympics. Being in the studio and hosting it for 2 weeks and being like, everyone watches the Olympics.
Yeah.
But that's probably not going to happen for me at this point because it's a lot of timing and what network you're part of and all that sort of other things. And so I've given that away and been okay with that. And then also you see the business a little bit more and I'm just like, they're in Russia hosting in a studio, but it's still just hosting in a studio.
Right.
You know?
Right. I think, it's a combination of a lot of different feelings and thoughts. But, like, I take a lot of inspiration from someone like Kelly Ripa, who's in her 50s and does that morning show beautifully. Her husband, Mark, just came on as her co-host. And, like, they're in their 50s. That's great. So maybe in my 50s, me and Joe can...
So the thing is, we have a lot of time left still.
Right, exactly.
You have a lot of time left.
Exactly. We both do.
Yeah.
For everything in life.
Exactly. What are you trying to focus on then now?
I'm just trying to make sure that every show I do my best. Like, I didn't think I particularly had a great show recently. And that eats at me. Mm-hmm. So it's about making sure my high level of work is consistent at all times that I accept.
What made it not a good show?
I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't as smooth with things. I didn't say things in, like, the beautiful manner in which I wrote them.
Yeah. Like mechanics. Like you just, like, stumbled a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
But it will eat me. It will eat at me for days.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, Fitz.
You know what I found is when it's a good lesson that I kind of just heard about recently is, like, when you are task-based, that's where you want to be. When you are kind of seeking approval or validation externally, that's when things will go sideways. And it's very subtle. When I'm, like, task-based of, like, we're coming on camera for the top of the main card, here we go. When I'm just, like, fully focused on the cards in front of me. When I, like, just get a little external, I'll do bad.
Yeah, interesting.
So I had a very bad on-camera top of main card on the Super Bowl weekend show.
Did you?
Yes.
I worked that show and I didn't notice.
Very bad. It was, I mean, up to my standards. And
right.
It's like,
well, that's the thing.
Well, and then also it's like, I can now internalize very quickly. I just go, that was bad in my head. To
Move
most
on.
people watching, couldn't even go.
Right.
People that are in the broadcasting world could be like, he's probably not thrilled with that stumble or misspeaking like that. But it's because I had a little too much focus on the Super Bowls in town. What celebrities over there? Ari Emanuel might be watching in the back because I know he's in the building. And I had a horrible show in Brasilia to start the pandemic. And it wasn't because I was freaked out about the pandemic. The stress of that weekend probably had some to do with it. But more to do with it was we were the only sport on TV at all. Like, I was like, I always wanted to host the Olympics because the world is watching. Here's my chance.
Yeah.
We were elevated to ESPN. The whole world shut down, and the UFC was still going forward with this card. And I thought about that instead of thinking about having a good show. And then I just like stuttered over everything for like the whole night. And everybody was dealing with a lot that weekend, so I didn't get like downgraded for it. But yeah, I hear you on that.
It's kind of weird because I almost feel the opposite. I feel like I rise to the occasion when I think like something massive is presented, or like we've had shows like I think there was Conor Poirier where they're like, we need you to do this and we need you to do this, and it's like, okay, cool, like I can rise to that occasion. But sometimes it's very weird, but like sometimes even lack of sleep will, because I'm such a bad sleeper. I'm like, okay, get through this and make sure you're giving this particular hit 110%, and we'll figure out how to do the next one. You know?
For me, it's the shows that aren't as important on the scale that I then place some, like Austin, I had maybe my best show ever, and it was probably my biggest show ever.
Yeah.
So I always deliver it when I absolutely need to, but it's like the sneaky ones where I'm just like, and then I'll just be like, oh, so-and-so's in town, normal routine, whatever, and then I flubbed that. I should actually focus on it.
It's us, and also
it's the look ahead,
compared to other broadcasters, not to play that game, but we're on air a lot longer.
Oh yeah, a lot longer.
Which it's nice that people who watch the sport and work in our field, like they always say like, how do you guys do it? This is not a 3 or 4 hour broadcast. This is 7 or 8, and so it's not going to be perfect, but as long as we hold ourselves to high standards, I think it'll be fine every time.
What a great show this was.
I love it.
Anything else?
I have no idea.
I'll go to you. I'll go to you with, as you know, you've been in fighter meetings with me a long time. At the end, I just go, anything else of note that we're leaving out? Because sometimes you can talk about a jab, you can talk about how they've worked on their wrestling, and then you could say, all right, thanks, man. We'll have a great week. Or if you just go, anything else happening? And they'll go, I'm having a baby in 3 weeks, or my wife's due.
Right.
Oh,
and then you could have led with that.
I got married. Well, if you don't ask, then they don't tell.
Exactly.
And so,
anything else? Let's see. Well, just trying to survive.
Well, that's a good thing.
Joe's gonna come to Miami. I'm excited about that.
Good.
Joe's the best. He's killing him. If you need any real estate endeavors,
real estate or a pickleball partner,
right?
You
Joseph
call Joe
Benavides. But he's just the absolute best. But I also, you know what? Your girl is working so much. I get asked all the time about my clothes, and now I've implemented these things on social media so people can see what I buy and what I'm wearing for events and stuff. And it's because it's probably the number one question I'm asked on social media, and so now I've tried to do that. So yeah, your girl's trying to be a fashion girly now.
You love that though.
Love.
Because you're so into fashion.
I love clothes. Yeah. I love style.
So now that the other people are taking note of your fantastic fashion, it's wonderful.
Exactly. Thanks.
Good for you. Megan Olivi in Mexico City. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks. You're the best.